Hello everyone. This is a video that I really have put off making for a very long time, years. And there's a lot of channels that have gone all in on it, and I believe created a sense of fear. And I do not agree with that. I believe in my faith, we are told, do not fear. But we are given wisdom and discernment and guidance. And so that's what I try and act on. But the subject is storing foods and whatever types of supplies. And again, it's very much this prepping, have to do it now. You've got to get this put away now because things are happening. Well, I've always said you should start anyway, and I still believe that. But things are happening. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think things are getting uncomfortable, and I think it's wisdom to start wherever you're at in your life. Start your preparations for storing food, storing a way to get water, storing fuel, whatever medications, anything like that that you take. Why do I say this now? I have never seen in my life, up until very recently, that I can go to buy something and my puppy Fanny, it's not in stock. I can't get what I need because of supply chain, weather disasters, ecological disasters, whatever types of disruptions in our supplies. I've never seen this badly. I mean, very occasionally something would happen, but it was never this uncomfortable. And I also see that they are changing ingredients in things that we buy, that instead of giving us a natural product or a product created from natural ingredients, we are getting things that are created to look like natural ingredients or changed in some way. And I don't want to eat that. I really believe a lot of our health issues are caused because of these changes. So those are some of the reasons I believe everybody should start their storage of food and whatever things they need on a regular basis. They should start now. But one of the big drivers of this is also the cost has gone up so much for most things. It's absolutely crazy. It's the beginning of April 2024, and here in Nevada, at least where I'm at, the gasoline price is now, I think $4.27 is the lowest I can find. Much of the country is much lower. But all of these things have an impact on everything you buy, because if truckers are driving things, they have cross country or cross states or whatever, they are at the mercy of fuel prices, which means everything you buy, that's added into the cost because they have to pay for their time and their fuel and wear and tear and all those things. So prices are going up everywhere, more in some places, but they're all going up. And that is the why, in my opinion. Why should you do this, and why should you start right now if you're not already doing it? because your dollars are going to go much less further the longer you wait. To me, this is like a savings account. I would rather put my money into these things now and know that we have healthy food and plenty of it than put it in a savings account to draw interest, which might or might not even meet inflation, or something to enjoy, because honestly, we have cut back a whole lot of things. So, puppy time. 4-month-old puppy. That's all I have to say. That is the why. I believe everybody should be putting away food, should have a plan for obtaining water if power goes out. When the power goes out here in my valley, it doesn't affect me because we're off grid and we produce our own power. But if you're not off grid, how do you get water? What if you're with a hurricane or an earthquake or some other kind of problem where they shut down the water supply? You should have some on hand. And every person is going to be different, but you should have some at all times. And I'll tell you, it's a little overwhelming to most people to get started on this. And I'll tell you how I got started and why. And maybe it'll give you some ideas. But then I'll go into more how I would recommend someone else get started. During the recession in 2007, 8, 9, Brian had been self-employed and had been doing extremely well, more work than he could handle. And in 2007, that dried up suddenly. We really didn't have warning. And so, yes, I had a few things put away, but not much because we had just finished building our house, barely moved in, and we really didn't have storage in our fifth wheel to store much of anything. So we got in a very bad position because that was our income, and it dried up fast. And we had this new house to pay for, so we were in a bad position. That's when I started my business, but that was slow going because I was new to the area and really didn't know people. And bookkeeping, you have to trust the person. So it took a while. He looked for work. I mean, Reno was one of the worst places in the country. It was bad. There were so many shuttered buildings, commercial buildings, and houses in foreclosure. It was so sad. But we got through that. And I will tell you, there were many times that the only thing I had for us to eat was what I call pan-fried spaghetti, which was a recipe from my mother back when she didn't have money. And that's browning spaghetti noodles and throwing a can of tomatoes in there and some seasonings. Very inexpensive, and it filled our bellies. I didn't have a garden yet. It was too soon. We had not had time. So all of these things made me get very uncomfortable about it and made me start to think about it. And it took a little bit of time till we had any money to put aside. But at that point, I started buying little bits of whatever I could. And that was pasta and spaghetti noodles. It was canned foods. It was flour and sugar. And it may be one thing every week or two, But I made that conscious decision that I was not going to be in that position anymore. And so it started a journey of really thinking about what will sustain us, how to buy these things, and then how to store them so that they stay good. And it developed over time into a much broader picture. Because then I was looking at buying grains. And I had already been buying pinto beans and other things like that that stored well and that were inexpensive. So it was just one step at a time, and that's how I went about it. But it made that conscious decision made me really start to look at everything, not just food, but what types of food, how to store it. All very important, and it's all very personal to you. I can't tell you what to buy. I can tell you how I went about it, but you have to do nothing unless you're going to eat that food. If it's something you eat and like, that's what you need to buy. Whatever you buy and put away, you need to know how to use it. I saw many people go out and buy a whole bunch of number 10 cans of pre-mixed freeze-dried foods. I've tried a lot of freeze-dried foods back when I was backpacking and doing those kinds of things before all this happened, and realized that I didn't like the taste of most of them, or I didn't like the texture. Because of that, I didn't do that. They were very expensive, and yes, they stored a long time, but when and if things get difficult, that's not what I wanted to eat. So that was part of my decision. So no matter what you do, make sure that you like the foods you're buying and storing, that you know how to prepare them, and practice it now. Excuse me, Fanny's getting into trouble again. I just think everybody should be thoughtful in this process. So that is how my journey started, and what I recommend to you. It's not rocket science, but what do you eat? What do you like? Start with that. If you buy canned vegetables, or if you can your own, that's a great place to start. Try and do a little bit extra all the time. The other thing I would encourage is think about the nutrition. If you only have this amount of food put away and something happens, how many people do you have to feed? And how are you going to give them the nutrition that they need? That's a huge piece of the puzzle to me. Depending on situation, where, what, when, how, any of that, you may need higher calories for each person because you may be doing more physical work. You might not be. It depends on what causes anything to happen. If you're taking care of animals or a garden, that uses energy and that burns calories. So you need a higher calorie count for that. You need to take into consideration children and what they can and do eat, animals, elderly, medications, all of those things play into it. It's all very individual. So those are things, and write all this down and then look at it. For me, especially at the beginning, My plan was to have either canned, dehydrated, or freeze-dried when I could afford to buy it, vegetables and meats, along with flour, sugar, those kinds of things. But if I had those basic ingredients, the meats and vegetables, I could make a soup. And I will tell you, one of my big must-haves is my spice supply. Herbs and spices are huge because I can make one soup taste many different ways so you don't get tired of it. But if you're eating the same thing over and over and over, you will get food fatigue. So my plan, if things got to that point, would be to make soups because it stretches the ingredients. They're full of nutrition, and if you learn now how to season them, they have so much flavor. And I have videos on how I make some of my soups that they're never the same twice, but they are all really good tasting, nourishing. I like to add barley or some other grain. I like to add greens if I can get them. But all of these things help stretch food, make it more nourishing, and taste good, which to me, that's really important. I don't make food that I don't like. The other piece of that is with those soups, you need some more nourishing food that will fill bellies. And one of the best ways I think to do that is to make breads. Now, you probably won't be able to go to the store and buy them if things get really difficult. So I think it's important to learn now how to make breads, whether you're using store-bought white flour, all-purpose, or whole wheat that you buy from the store, or if you're doing what I am now doing, which is so much more nutrition and costs less, is grinding my own grains and making bread. But there's a learning curve, so I'm warning you, if you are not used to it, you might start on something a little less challenging and progress from there. But now's the time to learn how to do that. And what if my fuel supply doesn't work? That's where my sun oven comes in, or my wood-fired grill or rocket stove, or the different types of ways I have to cook, because I don't want to be dependent on one thing. I always suggest you have a backup to your backup. Again, we're off grid. I have propane range, and I love it. You've seen it. I love that thing. But if I'm not able to refill the propane, then what do I do? These are things to think about, and don't be panicked. Don't be in a rush and go out and spend and buy, because that's where you make mistakes and waste money. Instead, be thoughtful and don't be afraid. This is a process, and yes, I think it's become important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video. But put away things you'll eat that you can afford at any one point. And whether that's beans and rice, whether it's canned goods or home canning your own foods, if you have chickens, if you have a garden, all of these things are a piece of that puzzle. But once you start to come up with your own plan and put it on paper, it makes it a lot easier to follow that plan and to set aside, I can buy one extra can this week. Then buy one extra can of something you'll eat. But think always that where is your nutrition coming from? Because you need to keep your health right in front of you. You need to make sure that what you're eating is going to provide what your body has to have. That to me is really, really important. And at that beginning period for me, that wasn't a consideration. It was what can I afford and what can we eat so that we don't go hungry. Now I've progressed and it's taken me years to learn. But I know what foods are nutritious. I know how to go about coming up with that plan, how to go about buying them in the most economical way. Because as you get a little bit more ahead, sometimes it pays to buy in bulk. Not always. Know your prices. And then look for sources that help you to buy in bulk in a wise way, and then how to store that food so that it stays good. All of those pieces are important. So I think I've gone far enough today. But I have other things I want to talk to you about, but this felt very urgent to me, and I know that it's becoming urgent to other people that I talk to. I'm probably going to be talking with people in my church about how to go about their food storage journey, because they're coming to me asking questions, and I think it's time that I figure out a way to share that knowledge, because it doesn't do me any good to keep it to myself. So I hope this answers some of your questions, and if you have other questions or suggestions, please leave them below or send me an email, and my email is down below, vickiescountryhome@gmail.com. I want to help anyone that wants that help get started. If you have questions about what you already have or want to do, ask me, and I will do my best to answer all those questions. Fanny, I'm gonna have to go get this dog. Okay, Fanny, say hi to YouTube. Yes, I know, you're busy. This is my baby, and she's more than a handful. Enough. No. So, this is a lot of my distraction, but I encourage you all to get started, start thinking about it. And if you need to work together with other people, just use wisdom. But there's a lot of people that maybe could work together to buy in bulk or to leverage your purchases. Thank you. Yes, I love you too. There she is. Trouble. But I'm here for you. I will make every effort to answer your questions and respond to them. But get started thinking about it now, because I don't believe prices are going down. And I see way too many disruptions in the food supply, whether it's beef, corn, wheat, so many different things. Get started now. So thank you all for being there for me. I love and appreciate all of you. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified of my videos. And I'm going to try and explore this and maybe show examples of what I do in upcoming videos. I also have something exciting to share with y'all that I will be doing a video on very soon. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a giveaway. And it's something that can help you in your journey to preparedness also. But again, I don't like to use the word prepping. I say we are storing food or storing what we need. And do not be afraid. Thank you, everyone, and God bless.